Yeah, Liverpool losing 3 in a row. And for the first time in his managerial career, Arne Slot losing 3 in a row in all competitions. He's never done that in his managerial career. Why hasn't it clicked, Dino? What's happened here? We'll talk about Chelsea in just a second because I think they deserve a mention for their performance at the weekend. But specifically on Liverpool over the last couple of games, is this something that's been coming?
Oh, absolutely. I think from the start of the season, you could tell that, yeah, there was a lot of changes, but I think it had trickled on from last season. I didn't think they ended the season incredibly well in some of the performances that they had. You could see the teams were getting at Liverpool and down the sides of their defence, and it seems to be happening again. And the new fullbacks that have come in have certainly not
Mm.
secured that up in any way, shape, or form. And talking of XG, I think Liverpool. If you look at their XG, they should be eighth. The last minute goals, the character that they've shown in certain games. Actually, it could have been a lot worse. And I think there's quite a bit of work to be done actually for Arne Slot to get this right and get them, where they really should be, considering the talent that he's got there.
They spent a lot of money during the course of the summer, and a lot was made of their recruitment. Isaac, Wirtz, a lot of headline makers coming into the club. But is there a danger that actually they've made too many changes to their starting 11? And instead of a sort of evolution under Arne Slot, which it felt like at the beginning of last season, it's become a revolution this summer, and that's unsettled everything, Crook.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Real Madrid and their Galacticos. You look at the individual names on paper and you think, well, how could this team possibly be beaten? They're going to win it all. They're going to win the Premier League. They're going to win the Champions League. They're going to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup. They're going to win the Ryder Cup. But obviously, football isn't won on paper. And I do think you're right. I think maybe they've tried to change too much too quickly. I keep highlighting it. I think they picked it out on Match of the Day at the weekend. I think the loss of Trent Alexander-Arnold is having a massive effect on Mo Salah in particular, because those two had such a great understanding last season. Trent's runs and the fact he was so good coming forward enabled Salah to pick up little pockets of space that maybe aren't there. It looks a bit congested at the top end of the pitch. I think you've got too many players who all want to be in the same sort of position. But then you look at the end of the game against Chelsea. I think we all felt once they equalised, I'm still not sure that Alexander Isak meant that touch, by the way. I think he's actually miscued it and it's ended up looking like a worldie of an assist. But you thought then, well, they've got the momentum. They're going to go on and win the game. Salah's put one into the stands that he would have scored last season, cutting in from the right on his left foot. How many times did that end up in the back of the net last year? But the last 7 or 8 minutes became very frantic. And I think Liverpool overcommitted in terms of putting men forward to try and get the winner, when actually they probably should have just been managing the game now to make sure they didn't get beat. And that's been different as well, because last season I thought they were quite dull at times, Liverpool, because they were so good at killing games. They seem to have
Yeah,
lost the ability to control the flow of proceedings.
in fact, one of the things that you said was that they weren't a great team because they were a little bit dull and they didn't blow anybody away. But that was kind of the point. That's what made them so good, so consistent, was that they were in control. I think credit has to go to Chelsea, by the way, because like you, I thought as soon as they conceded the equaliser, there's only one winner here. But Chelsea took the game to them in the last 10 minutes. They were definitely the better side and they deserved that winner. And we'll get to that in just a second. But Florian Wirtz has had a lot of attention, right? Everyone's talking about him and he hasn't settled in. He hasn't done this and he hasn't done that. His touch to set up Mo Salah at the beginning of the second half was just an example of the quality the kid has got. And by the way, if you look at the statistics and look through some of the metrics, Crook, you can see that he has been creating loads of chances. I wonder, Dean, actually, if the others are letting him down. And looking at Mo Salah's reaction to missing that chance after Wirtz had played him in with that lovely little balletic turn, he actually mouthed the words, sorry.
Which he doesn't say that often, to be
He
fair.
did.
I know, but because it was such a wonderful, would have been a wonderful assist. That the creativity of that, the vision, the execution was magnificent, and he's done quite a few of those type of touches in and around the area without maybe getting the benefit, like you say, of the other players putting those chances away. Himself hasn't really looked like scoring. That's a slight worry, but again, when you've got someone of that talent, and we've done it too often, especially in the Premier League, when the players are getting used to the pace of the league, and a new side, we write people off a little bit too quickly. And I've heard a lot of negativity actually about this, when if you really watch him, he's still giving a lot to the team, except you would say that actual end product in terms of goals. But I have absolutely no doubt that he is going to be brilliant.
Yep, I absolutely concur with that. I want you to get this image etched into your mind. I can't get it out of mine. Enzo Maresca sprinting down the touchline, jumping on the back of Esteval. Everyone realizing just how talented this young Brazilian is. Centre backs dropping like flies, but doesn't matter. Chelsea got over the line. Caicedo absolutely bossing the joint. Let's start with the performance of Chelsea. I think it's the best one definitely this season, the best since the Club World Cup final. They aren't consistent enough. But as a one-off performance, how impressive was that, Dino?
Oh, just incredible. That's what this team is capable of. This squad is capable of, and Maresca's already shown that. And what I saw in the Club World Cup made me think they genuinely have a chance to push for the Premier League title. Now, obviously, like you said, the consistency isn't there. They've had troubles with injuries. There is a lot of young players still in that squad. But if you're capable of that type of performance, then I think there has to be a bit more pressure then on the manager to deliver that on a regular basis. But I've got to say, I love the celebration. I absolutely loved it. Especially, it's more the fact he's in that outfit as well. Do you know what I mean? It's just see him sprinting past all the supporters behind him. It was brilliant.
The cream jacket and the yoga pants. Yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest look in the world, is it? Let's be honest about it. I mean, the training wear does need a little bit of work. You talk about there's too many young players in the team. There's only young players in the team. That is just what Chelsea are. And I think that's one of the issues and why they won't end up challenging for the title. But bearing in mind the pressure that has been on the Italian shoulders, and there has been pressure, and we talked about it in last week's podcast, the alleviation of the pressure only came with the 1-0 win, rather unconvincingly, against Benfica in midweek. But certainly this result has helped. What could that performance do for Maresca, though, Crook?
Well, it will certainly silence some of the noise around him. I think we both felt it was a bit odd that Chelsea felt the need to brief last weekend that he wasn't under any pressure. Obviously, after the start they've made to the season was a little bit underwhelming, and it's a type of performance that I think gets the fans believing as well, because it always seems a bit of an uneasy relationship between those Chelsea supporters and their manager. I think a lot of them are not convinced, despite the fact he delivered silverware last season. And I've got to take my hat off to him for the slight tweak that he made, bringing Malo Gusto into midfield as well. That was a move that worked out really well. Obviously enabled Enzo Fernandez to get higher up the pitch, and Caicedo to a certain extent as well, because it meant that Gusto was always filling that role in front of the back four. And it was so important, that axis between Gusto and Caicedo, bearing in mind...
It was the rotation. The rotation was so important, Crook. They went man for man at times during that midfield. So Gusto would go and sit on McAllister, then they'd switch round, and Enzo and Maresca would have that job. And they stopped Liverpool playing in that area by making sure that there was always someone sitting on the key playmaker.
Yeah, and it was crucial because obviously it was a very makeshift back line with Achiampong and Badiashile, the lesser spotted Badiashile at centre-back. Credit to Reece James as well. There's been a lot of talk about England right-backs. Obviously, Trent left out the squad because he's injured, but he wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed to be in anyway. And a few eyebrows have been raised that Tuchel always picks Reece James. I think we saw at the weekend why Thomas Tuchel is so confident in Reece James's ability. And there's little doubt in my mind, actually, that when he's fully fit, probably he should be first name on the team sheet in terms of that England right-back spot.
Yep, and of course, we found out today that Reece James has pulled out of this England camp. He's got an injury, but there were no surprises that he was in that squad. The uneasy relationship with the manager, I think, stems from the fact that, obviously, Chelsea supporters have seen the performances over the course of the 12 months that he's been in charge, and they haven't always been spectacular. There's been some great performances like we saw on Saturday night, but not necessarily consistent enough. But also because, if you're a Chelsea supporter, you don't want to get too attached. This is not a relationship that's going to be a long-term one. Do you know what I mean? It's Chelsea. We just don't do that. Monogamy is not for us. The other sort of point you made there about Reece James is he's got this fantastic ability to whip a ball in, but he has got a dogged determination just to be part of this side at the moment. So many times we've seen him out with injury, but they've worked so hard on trying to get him back in. And this is why now we sort of saw him drip fed in at the beginning of the season, I think, to ensure that he was robust enough to be able to play a greater part this season. Squad depth is a major, major plus point for the team that are top of the table. That's Arsenal. They're there by a point now. And the depth of that squad has been absolutely superb and key to their early season form, Dean Ashton, because when players do get injured, the replacements are top quality.
Yeah, they are. I was there on Saturday for the game against West Ham, and they were just so convincing, Arsenal, in that game. I know West Ham were particularly poor, but they weren't given the chance to even settle or get a grasp in the game because Arsenal was so strong. Odegaard goes off, and they can bring on Zubamendi as a replacement, and the performance doesn't drop whatsoever. I think that's what was missing last season. I thought they were pretty much there, and then a few injuries just cost them, I think, a few too many points. This season, they have to win the Premier League. I just can't see how they can miss out this season with that squad.
Adrian Durham said it on Game Day Live, actually, this week. He said they would win it. They'll be top of the table tonight, and I think they'll be there at the end of the season. I think we've all got this feeling that Arsenal are in the best position to do it because they look like they've got the best squad, and they do look a little bit more controlled than everybody else. Everybody else just looks a little bit chaotic at a certain department. So Liverpool's defence is not great. Their attack's not 100% firing. Yes, they're winning games, but they just don't look in control of matches. Manchester City, still a little bit erratic. But Crook also sent a message saying that he believed Arsenal would run away with it on our private WhatsApp group this week. So why now is everyone convinced? Why didn't everyone come out at the beginning of the season and say that? Because we were talking in our pre-season podcast, this is going back into the end of June, beginning of July, about the squad that they were building, and we knew what was happening there. So why now is everybody all of a sudden convinced, Crook?
I actually tipped up Arsenal to win the league last season. I didn't expect Liverpool to be so good under Arne Slot. And I think this year we all got sort of dragged along by the fact that Liverpool was signing all these superstars. And I don't think any of us really could see past the Reds retaining their title, the fact they've been a bit off it, the fact Manchester City are still in transition. I know you were strong on them, Sam, at the start of the season. I wasn't. I think that just adds to the Arsenal bandwagon jumping, if you like. They're odds on now with the bookies, which I think maybe is a little bit of an overreaction to the start of the season, but they just don't concede any goals. And as you've already alluded to, unlike the other two teams there, City and Liverpool, they win games in first gear. It was no sweat against West Ham at the weekend. The same against Olympiacos in the Champions League in midweek. And where they're so resolute defensively, and they've added that bit of stardust now with the likes of Eberechi Eze, although he missed an absolute sitter at the weekend, I think it's really hard to pick holes in this Arsenal team. I think their biggest issue is away from home against the top sides and Mikel Arteta's mindset. We saw that at Liverpool. They have obviously still got to go to the Etihad. They weren't great at United on the first day of the season. But if he changes that, I think they're going to be very hard to reel in.
Well, we will be there when they do go there to the Etihad Stadium. We'll also be at Manchester City, Liverpool, which is not too far away. But Manchester City only 3 points off the top. Liverpool second, 15 points from their 7 games, 1 point off Arsenal. Tottenham Hotspur and Bournemouth are only 2 points off the top as well. Crystal Palace in 6 are 4 points off the top, and they had a chance to go second yesterday and threw it away late on against Everton. One cause for concern for Arsenal is the injury situation. They do seem to be picking up quite a few of these again, Dean Ashton. Martin Odegaard, unlucky, looked like he was returning to fitness and form, and then all of a sudden gets a bang on the knee, and now he's out of international duty because of a medial knee ligament injury. I mean, they feel as if this one's not going to be as bad as first feared, but it is still a problem, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I think it was his own issue, to be honest. He dangled the leg out and got whacked by Somerville. You could see straight away there was an issue, tried to carry on and couldn't. But yeah, let's hope for his sake that it's not a long-term issue. And Declan Rice had to go off with what looked like a back issue, but I'm pretty sure he'll be fine as well. But again, it's they'd have to get some serious injuries now for it to really affect that squad because of the depth that it's got. And there's players that aren't really getting a look in yet that you would say actually, in other teams they would be playing regularly. So I don't think it's an issue right now. Obviously, anything long term could then impact fatigue on a lighter squad, but there's no excuses anymore. They're there. They're a superb team. Defensively, they're magnificent. There's no excuse now, really, to not go and win something massive.
Indeed. Gyökeres, big money striker, playing well, not necessarily scoring goals, but certainly helped them score goals. Did that last week. What's his role going to be when Havertz returns, Dino?
Probably the same. I think Havertz will work around Gyökeres. He's played pretty much every minute for Arteta and won't stop. I love his attitude, I love his mentality. What he's going to give you is, even if he's not scoring the goals, which I think some of the other strikers, including Havertz, don't give you, is that ability to just run the defence ragged, pull them out of position to allow your other players. And it's an unselfish role, and he's one of the best at being unselfish. He will get his goals. He's looked a bit desperate, I think, at times to get those goals when it's come into the penalty area, and he looks all a bit rushed. But his ability to drag players away when it's tight, and it was against West Ham, his ability to drag players away can't go unnoticed. It can't. It's an ability that not that many strikers actually understand.
Brentford were beaten at home by Manchester City, who got the job done on Sunday because of their XG being so tightly examined by Alex Crook. You have to say, though, that Erling Haaland, talking of strikers, looks hungrier than ever this season. His scoring run of 12 goals in 9 games, absolutely superb. And the goal that he scored on Sunday, when he basically just ragdolls Sepp van den Berg, he's like, get off, and then charges his way through. I said during the show that Crook and I were doing, it's like he took him out with the trash. Just throw him away. I'm here now. Everybody move. There's a goal incoming. But are they too Haaland focused? Do they have enough goals from other places, Crook?
No, at this moment in time. And I think I made the point to you before kickoff that Haaland obviously was far and away their top goal scorer. Their next leading scorer in the Premier League was Estev with his 2 own goals at the Etihad the previous week. So that isn't great.
And he plays for Burnley, for those who don't know.
I thought, and I've written about this for the talkSPORT website in my comment piece from the game, that Phil Foden was a little bit over keen to try and make a point. He seemed in the first 25 minutes, half an hour, when City were completely dominant, just to want to shoot every time he got the ball. And you referenced it, actually, that there was a chance he had early on when he could have played in Savinho. He went for goal himself. It was a tame effort, and Savinho was furious about that. So as much as Foden has improved on what we saw last season, he isn't back to his best, barring that Manchester derby. And I think Thomas Tuchel's decision to omit him on form is probably the right one. But they do need goals from elsewhere in the team. I mean, apart from rollicking Foden, I can't recall too much else that Savinho did. Doku provided a bit of an outlet when they were under pressure when he came off the bench. And I think actually he's had a reasonably decent start to the season. I like Reinders, and he was unlucky not to score with an effort from outside the penalty area, but they can't just rely on Haaland. The big issue for me with City yesterday, because as I said, they looked like they were going to blow Brentford away for half an hour. Once Rodri went off, they really conceded control of the game. And that's a big problem because, as Alan Pardew told you over breakfast, when you're coming back from that serious of an injury, and Dino will know this, you do start to pick up other issues in your body. And I'm not sure that we're going to see the best of Rodri for several months.
Yeah, that's true. Me and Alan Pardew were having breakfast on a rooftop, and Crookie was there, but he went off to do a hit on breakfast. And whilst he was off having his little bit of employment, Alan was talking to me about Erling Haaland and about Manchester City and what he thought about them. And then he said the problem here is that Rodri cements it all together. And the fact is that he won't play that many games this season because he will continue to pick up injuries, because after such a long layoff, that is what happens to the body. And do you know what? he was absolutely spot on. The thing that does give me confidence about this Manchester City team, and I'm, as you know, someone who backed them at the beginning of the season to win the title, is the acquisition of Gianluigi Donnarumma, who makes a massive, massive difference. He's just so big, so strong, so assertive, comes and claims everything, comes and punches everything. And Erling Haaland, it's like having an Erling Haaland-style goalkeeper and Erling Haaland being the goal scorer at the top of the formation. So I think that gives them a chance. And they're still 3 points off the title, off the top spot, which is, at the moment, I'll take that as we go into the second international break.